Before we start, kindly subscribe to my channel and tell me, where in the universe are you watching from? He stumbled into the women's locker room. What happened next shocked everyone. John Stryker had survived military ambushes, space station explosions, and even an angry alien diplomat who threw a chair at him. But none of that compared to the disaster unfolding before him now. He stood frozen in place, blinking at the dozen fierce, battle-hardened Zerathuri warrior women staring back at him. Steam curled through the massive, stone-carved chamber, where pools of water shimmered under dim golden lights. The warriors, each over 6 feet tall, their skin tones ranging from deep bronze to shimmering violet, were halfway through removing their armored bodysuits. Some had tattoos of ancient battles across their arms, others had scars that told silent stories of victory, and every single one of them looked murderous. A moment of stunned silence stretched between them. Then someone screamed. An outsider. John's brain caught up just as dozens of weapons were drawn. Blades, plasma whips, and even a war hammer the size of his torso gleamed in the light. Oh hell. Wait. This is a mistake. John held up his hands, backing toward the doorway. He had just finished a diplomatic meeting and had only wanted to find a sauna. No one told him that Zerathuri saunas were strictly divided by gender. How dare a male enter the sacred warrior's resting chamber? One of the women, a towering fighter with a cybernetic arm, snarled. I didn't see a sign, John blurted. The crowd gasped. No sign. No sign. A blue-skinned warrior pointed to an enormous glowing inscription above the doorway, the ancient Zerathuri symbols, while unreadable to John, probably said something like, Men who enter shells as UFFER a thousand DETs. Well, that explained the looks he was getting. Before he could explain further, the crowd parted, and she stepped forward. General Viria Karin. The sight of her knocked the air from John's lungs. She was tall, imposing, and absolutely terrifying. A sharp jawline framed her midnight blue eyes, which burned with equal parts fury and amusement. Her long, dark red hair was braided with silver bands, the mark of a high-ranking warlord. Unlike the others, she was fully dressed in ceremonial battle robes, meaning she had likely just arrived. Her gaze raked over John like he was an insect that had landed in her drink. You must be very bold, she said slowly, her voice smooth but edged like a dagger. Or very, very stupid. John swallowed hard. I vote stupid. A pause. Then, a dozen warriors roared with laughter. Viria did not. She stepped closer, tilting her head. You do realize what this means. John forced a smile. A really awkward misunderstanding. Her lips curled. You have just invoked the right of honor. John blinked. The what? By stepping into a warrior's resting chamber, she continued, you have issued a challenge, a declaration that you wish to claim the strongest among us as your bonded mate. His brain short-circuited. Wait. What? The warriors around them grinned, some whispering excitedly. The room was shifting from kill him to this is getting interesting. John's mouth went dry. That can't be right. There's gotta be a way to. Tradition is absolute. Viria's voice turned mocking. Unless, of course, you would rather be dishonored and executed. John looked at the circle of very sharp weapons surrounding him. Welp, this was happening. John Stryker stood very, very still. His military instincts screamed at him to run, but with a dozen heavily armed warriors blocking the exit, that wasn't an option. Let's talk about this, he tried, forcing a diplomatic smile. I didn't mean to challenge anyone. Honest mistake. The circle of Zerathuri warriors just grinned like hungry wolves. Mistake or not, General Viria Karin said, crossing her arms, you have declared yourself in the right of honor. And in our laws, a declaration cannot be undone. John pinched the bridge of his nose. Right, because that would make too much sense. Viria smirked. You have two choices, Terran. Face honorable combat, and prove your worth, or accept immediate execution. A warrior with a jagged facial scar leaned in. Pick execution. It's faster. The others laughed. John sighed. Okay, fine. Say I do this. What exactly am I proving my worth for? Viria's midnight blue eyes gleamed. If you survive, you will be my bonded mate. John nearly choked. Wait, what? The entire room erupted into cheers. A burly Zerathari warrior clapped John on the back so hard he nearly fell over. Ah, the Terran has courage. A fine match for the general. John stared at the man like he just lost his mind. This was insane. He walked into the wrong room, and now he was apparently engaged to an alien warlord. Hold on. I don't want to marry anyone, he protested. I was just looking for the sauna. Viria raised an eyebrow. Then you should have read the sign. John opened his mouth, then closed it. Fair point. Viria turned and addressed the gathered warriors. The Terran accepts the challenge. The warriors cheered again. John groaned. I did not. Too late. The doors slammed shut behind him. The arena of trials. John was led through a maze of stone corridors before finally emerging into a massive underground arena. The ceiling arched high above, torches casting long shadows on the arena floor. Thousands of Zerathari warriors filled the stands, stamping their feet and chanting. John took a deep breath. Okay, no big deal. He'd survived worse situations. Right. A massive iron gate groaned open, revealing his first opponent. John's stomach dropped. A 7-foot-tall Zerathari warrior stepped out, muscles like steel cables. His armor gleamed black, engraved with battle scars. He twirled a double-bladed plasma spear, the weapon humming with deadly energy. The crowd roared. Viria stepped forward, her expression unreadable. You face Kozor, champion of the Crimson Guard. If you defeat him, you move on to the next trial. John ran a hand down his face. There's more than one. Viria smirked. Of course. What did you expect? A pillow fight. John exhaled. Great, just great. Kozor slammed his spear against the ground, the impact shaking the arena floor. I will make this quick, Terran. John rolled his shoulders. Yeah, I'd prefer slow. Gives me time to think. Kozor charged. John barely dodged the first swing, the plasma blade scorching the air beside his face. Okay, time to stop talking and start surviving. John Stryker ducked low, barely avoiding the blazing plasma spear that sliced through the air above him. The heat from the weapon singed the ends of his hair, and he stumbled back, heart pounding. Kozor, the massive Zerathari warrior, grinned like a predator sensing easy prey. His bronze skin gleamed under the arena lights, his crimson armor etched with battle scars. The crowd roared, eager for blood. Fight, Terran, Kozor taunted, or fall like the weakling you are. John exhaled, forcing himself to focus. Running wasn't an option. Talking his way out. Unlikely. That left only one choice. Win. Kozor lunged again, his plasma spear spinning in a blur of blue light. John twisted to the side, but the pole of the spear caught him in the ribs, sending him skidding across the sandy floor. Pain exploded through his side. Okay. That hurt. A lot. Viria Karin watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, her midnight blue eyes unreadable. She wasn't laughing, but she wasn't concerned either. John coughed and pushed himself up. He could feel the warriors in the stands mocking him, calling him weak. He wasn't Zerathari. He didn't have their strength. But what he did have? Terran ingenuity. He smirked, wiping a bit of blood from his lip. All right, big guy. My turn. Kozor let out a booming laugh. You? Strike me. You have no weapon. John shrugged. Sure I do. I just have to take yours. The laughter in the crowd faded. Kozor growled. You dare mock. John sprinted forward before he could finish. Instead of dodging, He went straight at him. Kazor hesitated for just a fraction of a second, long enough. John dropped at the last second, sliding between the warrior's legs. As he passed, he hooked his arm around the spear's shaft and yanked hard. Kazor's grip was like iron, but the unexpected move threw him off balance. He stumbled forward, planting one foot to recover, exactly what John was counting on. John twisted, hooked his leg behind Kazor's knee, and slammed both fists into the back of his opponent's leg. With a thunderous crash, the massive warrior collapsed onto his back. The crowd gasped. John didn't waste a second. He grabbed the fallen spear, flipped it in his hands, and leveled it at Kazor's throat. Silence. Thousands of Zerathari warriors stared, wide-eyed. Kazor blinked up at John in shock. "You tricked me." John grinned. "I call it strategy." For a moment, Kazor was still. Then, to John's surprise, the giant warrior let out a deep, booming laugh. "Well fought, Terran." Kazor raised his hands in surrender. "I yield." The arena erupted into cheers. John blinked. "Wait, that's it. I win." Viria stepped forward, a small smirk tugging at her lips. "You survived. That is more than we expected." John exhaled in relief, just as another massive iron gate groaned open. A new opponent stepped forward, twice as big as Kazor. John stared. "Oh, come on." The crowd roared once more. The next trial had begun. John tightened his grip on the plasma spear as the massive iron gate groaned open. The crowd fell silent for a moment, then erupted into deafening cheers. From the shadows of the gate, a hulking figure emerged. John's stomach dropped. This wasn't just another warrior. This was a beastmaster. The Zerathari standing before him was even larger than Kazor, towering nearly 8 feet tall, his deep violet skin covered in jagged black tattoos. His heavy armor was decorated with fangs and claws, trophies of the creatures he had tamed. But what made John's throat go dry wasn't the warrior himself. It was the thing he brought with him. A 4-legged beast, covered in dark red scales, snarling and snapping with rows of serrated teeth. Its glowing yellow eyes locked onto John, its long whip-like tail smashing into the ground with enough force to crack stone. "Oh, come on." John groaned. "How is this fair?" The crowd laughed, entertained by his frustration. The Beastmaster grinned, his voice a low rumble. "Terran, you fight me and my beast. If you defeat us, you move forward." John exhaled. "Okay. Any chance I can just fight you and leave the murder lizard out of it?" The Beastmaster chuckled. "No. Figures." Viria Karin stood at the edge of the arena, arms crossed, watching intently. There was something in her expression. Curiosity. John shook out his arms. "All right, buddy. Let's see what you've got." The Beastmaster barked a command, and the creature lunged. John barely dodged as the beast's razor-sharp claws swiped through the air, missing him by inches. The ground shook beneath its weight, and John was forced to roll to the side as the Beastmaster charged behind it, swinging a massive war axe. John blocked with the plasma spear, but the impact sent him sliding backward. Not good. The beast whipped its tail, aiming for his legs. John jumped, barely avoiding the strike. He needed a plan. John's eyes flicked between the Beastmaster and the creature. They were fighting together, but they weren't coordinated. The Beastmaster commanded, the beast obeyed. But there was a half-second delay. That was his opening. John darted left, making it look like he was going to attack the Beastmaster. The Beastmaster raised his axe, ready to counter. Now, he roared at his beast. The creature lunged forward. Too late. John suddenly switched directions, diving right, straight toward the beast's exposed flank. With one precise strike, he drove the plasma spear into the creature's back leg. The beast howled in pain, stumbling. John didn't wait. He spun and slammed his fist into the Beastmaster's chest plate, right where the armor was weakest. The massive warrior staggered back, caught off guard. John didn't let up. He twisted the spear, forcing the injured beast to collapse. The Beastmaster turned, eyes wide, realizing too late that his advantage was gone. John ripped the spear free and pointed it at the Beastmaster's throat. The arena fell silent. For a long moment, the Beastmaster stared at him. Then, slowly, he let out a booming laugh. "Ha, clever Terran." He raised his hands. "I yield." The crowd exploded into cheers. John exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. Viria Karin stepped forward, her midnight blue eyes unreadable. "You fight like no warrior I have seen before." John smirked. "That's because I'm not a warrior. I'm just really, really stubborn." Viria's lips curved into the faintest smile. "One trial remains." John sighed. "Of course there is." The final gate creaked open. John turned to face his greatest challenge yet. The final gate groaned open, revealing a dark corridor lined with blue torches. The air was thick with tension, the roar of the crowd fading into an uneasy hush. John gripped the plasma spear tighter. His heart hammered. He had fought a giant warrior, outsmarted a beast, and somehow survived. But now he was stepping into something different. Viria Karin, standing at the edge of the arena, called out, "This final trial is not a test of strength, but of will. Enter, Terran, and prove yourself worthy." John exhaled sharply and stepped forward. The iron doors clanged shut behind him, sealing him inside. The Hall of Shadows. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, its walls covered in glowing runes that pulsed like a heartbeat. A faint mist curled along the floor, chilling the air. And in the center of the room, waiting for him, was his opponent. John's breath hitched. It wasn't a warrior. It wasn't a beast. It was himself. A perfect copy, standing tall, wearing the same battle-worn clothes, gripping the same plasma spear. The doppelganger smirked. "So this is what they call a Terran warrior." His voice was Jones, but sharper, colder. John frowned. "Great. First I fight aliens, now I fight my own reflection." The copy twirled his spear lazily. "Not just a reflection. Striker, I am your doubt, your fear, your weakness." His smirk widened. "And I'm here to see if you really deserve to stand beside Viria Karin." John clenched his jaw. What kind of test is this? The most important one. Without warning, the copy lunged. John barely raised his spear in time to block. The impact sent a shock up his arms. This wasn't just an illusion. It was real. It was him. The doppelganger attacked relentlessly, moving with his exact speed and skill, but without hesitation. John dodged left. His copy dodged right. John feinted high. His copy feinted low. Every move he made, the copy countered perfectly. John gritted his teeth. He had fought warriors twice his size, outwitted monsters, but this, fighting himself, was impossible. The doppelganger grinned. "You can't win, Striker. You doubt yourself. You think you don't belong here." John's grip tightened. Because it was true. He didn't belong here. He wasn't a Zerathuri warrior. He wasn't part of their traditions. He was just a guy who walked into the wrong room and ended up in an arena of death. The copy saw the hesitation and struck. John barely managed to roll aside, the plasma spear grazing his shoulder. Pain flared. His copy laughed. "You are weak. You should have died in the first round." John staggered up, breathing hard. Weak? Maybe. But he wasn't a quitter. His copy lunged again. This time, John didn't block. Instead, he stepped forward. The copy's spear stopped inches from his chest. John smirked. "You're right. I doubt myself." He looked his copy in the eye. "But that's what makes me strong." The doppelganger hesitated. John didn't. He dropped his spear, grabbed his copy by the collar, and slammed his forehead into the copy's face. The illusion shattered into dust. Victory. The room brightened. The rooms faded. A doorway opened. John exhaled sharply. He had done it. As he stepped through, the roaring of the crowd returned. Viria Karin stood waiting, arms crossed, a strange gleam in her midnight blue eyes. "You have passed the final trial, Terran." Her voice was calm, but there was something else there. Admiration, curiosity. John smirked, rolling his sore shoulder. "Does this mean I get a prize?" Viria stepped closer, studying him. "It means you are now bound to the Zerathuri. And to me." John blinked. "Wait, what?" The crowd erupted in celebration. John groaned. "Oh, come on." The cheers of the crowd thundered through the arena, but John Stryker barely heard them. His brain was still catching up to what Viria Karin had just said. "Bound to the Zerathuri. And to me." John blinked. "Bah, could you run that by me again, just so I know I didn't mishear?" Viria arched an elegant brow, her midnight blue eyes sharp. "You heard correctly, Terran." A large Zerathuri elder stepped forward, dressed in flowing silver robes, his deep voice carrying across the arena. "By passing the 3 trials, the Terran John Stryker has proven his worth. By ancient tradition, he is no longer an outsider." The elder turned to Viria. "Karin, by your own declaration, the binding is sealed." John raised a hand. "Okay, I still don't know what binding means, but it sounds awfully permanent." Viria's lips curved slightly, amused. "It is." John ran a hand through his hair. "Let me guess. This isn't just about proving I can fight. This was some kind of marriage ritual, wasn't it?" The elder nodded solemnly. "It is an honor. The warrior who proves himself in battle may claim, or be claimed by, a Zerathuri of status. You and Viria Karin are now bound as battlemates." John stared at Viria. "Battlemates? Like warrior partners? Friends?" She tilted her head. "Like life partners." John opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. "Oh." The crowd erupted into laughter at his reaction. Kozor, the massive warrior John had defeated earlier, pounded his chest in approval. "You fought well, Terran. Viria has chosen wisely." John sighed. "I feel like I should have been warned about this before stepping into the first fight." Viria stepped closer, her dark blue hair catching the light. "Would it have changed your choice?" John hesitated. If he had known what was at stake, would he have walked away? Probably. But now, something in him didn't want to. Viria had been watching him the whole time, not with pity, not with scorn, but with respect. She wasn't forcing this on him. She had claimed him because she believed he was worthy. That was new. He sighed again, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, I guess I could do worse." The crowd roared in approval. Viria smirked. "You are mine now, John Stryker, but do not relax just yet." John chuckled. "Why? You got another surprise waiting for me." Her smirk deepened. "Yes, we have a diplomatic summit tomorrow, and as my battlemate, you will be at my side." John blinked. "Oh, come on." The cheers grew even louder. John Stryker adjusted the stiff ceremonial sash across his chest and sighed. "Remind me why I have to wear this again." Viria Karin, standing beside him in a sleek, battle-forged robe embroidered with silver insignias, barely spared him a glance. "Because you are my battlemate. Your presence represents strength." John tugged at the sash. "I feel like a space butler." Viria's lips twitched, almost smiling. "Then you will be the first Terran butler to stand before the High Council." John sighed and glanced at the massive chamber ahead of them. The diplomatic hall was grand and ancient, its towering pillars carved with battle scenes from Zerathuri history. Inside, rows of powerful alien leaders sat around a colossal obsidian table, their piercing gazes locked onto him. "Yeah, no pressure." Viria stepped forward with her usual grace and authority, bowing her head slightly. "Honored Council, I present John Stryker, my battlemate." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A Zeratheri elder with steel-gray skin and piercing gold eyes leaned forward. A Terran. You bind yourself to an off-worlder. His voice was thick with disbelief. We expected a warrior of standing, not an outsider. John raised a hand. I'm right here, by the way. And last I checked, I fought my way through your trials. A few council members chuckled. The elder, however, was not amused. Viria tilted her chin up. John Stryker defeated Khazor. He overcame the Beastmaster's trial. He conquered the trial of will. Is that not enough? The elder's gaze hardened. Perhaps, but strength alone does not make one worthy of political matters. John resisted the urge to groan. Great. More tests. Another council member, a regal-looking woman with violet markings, drummed her fingers against the table. Let us see if this Terran has more than brute force. If he is to stand at your side, he must prove himself in diplomacy as well. John glanced at Viria. You set me up, didn't you? She smirked. Try not to embarrass me. Stryker. John stepped forward and looked the council members in the eyes. All right. What do you need from me? The violet-marked woman gestured toward a holographic display, where a map of 3 contested star systems flickered into view. We are negotiating with the Tyrax Dominion. They wish to claim these territories, but we seek to maintain control. Our last envoy failed to persuade them. If you are truly worthy of Virida's trust, convince them to reconsider. John folded his arms. So, you want me to talk a war-hungry alien empire into giving up land? The elder smirked. Yes. Impress us. John sighed, rubbing his forehead. He glanced at the data scrolling across the hologram and frowned. The Tyrax weren't just claiming the land. They were after resources. He looked up. What if we offer them a trade instead? The room fell silent. The violet-marked woman raised a brow. Explain. John pointed at a neighboring unclaimed sector on the map. They want these systems for their energy cores, but from what I'm reading, there's a nebula here with the same rare elements they need. Offer them exclusive mining rights there. They get what they want. We keep the disputed space, and everyone wins. A few council members murmured, considering. The elder narrowed his eyes. And why would the Tyrax accept? John smirked. Because they think like warriors. If we refuse, they expect to fight. If we suddenly offer a peaceful alternative, they'll get suspicious. But if we make them believe it was their idea to negotiate, they'll take the deal. Viria's eyes gleamed with approval. The violet-marked woman leaned back, a small smile forming. Interesting. The elder exhaled, then nodded slowly. Perhaps this Terran is not entirely useless. John grinned. I'll take that as a compliment. Viria stepped beside him. He is worthy. John glanced at her. For the first time, she wasn't just testing him. She was defending him. And that meant more than any victory in the arena. The council deliberated, and finally, the violet-marked woman spoke. We shall test this strategy. If it succeeds, John Stryker, you will have proven yourself fully. John let out a breath. No pressure. Viria smirked. You handled yourself well, battlemate. John shrugged. I told you, I'm just really, really stubborn. She chuckled. As they left the chamber, John exhaled. He had survived the trials, outwitted a beast, fought his own fears, and now somehow talked his way through a galactic negotiation. What was next? John Stryker stood on the balcony of the Zeratheri stronghold, staring at the twin moons overhead. The negotiations had gone better than expected. The Tyrax Dominion accepted the deal, and the war was avoided. He should have been celebrating. Instead, his mind was racing. Behind him, Viria Karn approached, her long dark blue hair flowing in the evening breeze. She stopped beside him, her gaze steady as ever. You are troubled. John exhaled, shaking his head. You could say that. She watched him in silence for a moment. Then she crossed her arms. Speak, battlemate. You do not hesitate in the arena. Why hesitate now? John chuckled dryly. Because in the arena, I know what I'm up against. But this. He gestured vaguely to the city below. Alien towers stretching toward the stars, banners bearing Zeratheri emblems fluttering in the night. This is different. Viria tilted her head slightly. You have proven yourself. You have earned honor among my people. What more troubles you? John turned to face her. Back home, I was just another guy. A soldier, sure, but nothing special. I never imagined I'd be here, fighting, winning, being, well, bound to you. Viria's lips twitched, amused. I recall you saying you could do worse. John grinned. Yeah, but that was before I realized what it really meant. She raised an eyebrow. And now? John hesitated. Then he sighed. I don't know where I belong anymore. My home is light years away. My people, they don't even know what I've done here. But the moment I stepped into that arena, I became part of something bigger. Viria studied him, her midnight blue eyes unreadable. Then she said simply, You belong where you choose to stand. John blinked. That easy, huh? She nodded. Honor is not given. It is seized. A warrior does not wait for a place to belong. He claims it. John chuckled. And you claimed me. Viria's smirk softened. Yes, and I would not choose another. That hit him harder than any punch in the arena. She wasn't just talking about battlemates or tradition. She meant it. For the first time since he arrived, John felt something settle inside him. He looked up at the night sky, then back at her. All right, I choose to stand here. Viria's eyes gleamed with approval. Then fight beside me, John Stryker. Not because you must, but because you will. John grinned. You sure you can handle me, Karen? She smirked. The question is, can you handle me? He laughed. Guess we'll find out. As the twin moons shone down on them, John knew one thing for certain. He wasn't just a warrior anymore. He was Zerathari. And for the first time in his life, he was home.